Hey folks, it's the Mist and Fly here, hope you're well, and you join me on another evening ride out in the Trossachs in beautiful Scotland. And tonight I'm going to do a bit of a scenic ride. I'm starting off at Loch Katrine, which is where I've just left, and going around the banks of gorgeous Loch Katrine, around the northern bank of that, heading down to something called the Duke's Pass, which is a scenic drive, or ride in this case. I'm going to be heading down towards Aberfoyle, then back up to Loch Katrine via another road which takes you past yet another couple of lochs, and it proves to be, I think it's going to be, a very lovely ride, depending on what the weather does. Of course, the weather here is very changeable at the best of times. At the moment it's dry and there's some lovely sunshine falling on that mountain ahead, but it has been raining through the day. It is summer after all. Anyway, stick around, stay tuned for the next few minutes, and hopefully I can share with you some of the stunning views around the lovely Trossachs. Now this particular road I'm on around Loch Katrine is actually a public road in that it is built for cars and so on, but it's mainly here and used today by, well, the few people that live around here. There are a couple of dwellings dotted around the loch, but mainly for cyclists and walkers. And to let you into a little secret, I did in fact cycle around here earlier in the other direction today with my family, so I do know what's coming up on this part of the ride, and it's absolutely beautiful. It took me, well, ages on the bike, about 2 hours to do something like 14 miles, which is that northern shore down there. It stretches back much further than you can see there, and it's very varied. You know, there's lots of ups and downs, so quite hard work on a push bike, but on a motorcycle absolutely fantastic. And I'm thrilled to have the little CRF with me on this trip, because it's just brilliant for this sort of riding where the roads can get a bit gnarly and slippery, and it's just perfect to explore, you know, out of the way places. Now there are lots of trails off this route as well, which I'm not going to attempt because the ground is quite wet at the moment, but wow, if you were staying in this area for a good period of time and you had one of these little bikes, you could really have some fun around here, provided of course you had permission from the landowners if you wanted to go off-road. Now check this out, we're at the let's just think about this. This is the northern tip of Lake Katrine, or Loch Katrine, sorry, now looking absolutely resplendent in the evening sunshine. The greens with that near that little house over there just look absolutely beautiful and vibrant in the sunshine. That is a lovely spot. Got to be a little bit careful not to get too carried away this evening, because these roads are very slippy and greasy and muddy as well. There's some work going on at the moment up here to do up the electricity supply, or whatever they're doing to it. Not quite sure what they're doing, but upgrading the electricity supply. So there's quite a lot of plants and stuff being on this road and put some mud over it, so I think it can be quite treacherous in places. Well worth venturing out though. I mean, look at this view, just absolutely amazing. This is why you need a bike with knobbly tyres. The road here is really slippery. It's basically got pine cones in the middle of it, I think, mixed with water, that makes it pretty treacherous. Luckily the knobbly tyres on this bike make it okay. So I've now sort of turned around the northwestern tip of Loch Katrine, and I'm on the northern bank now, going through this lovely little glade. Wow, motorcycles are such a great way to explore the countryside. So much better than sitting in a car doing this. When you're on a bike, you just feel part of the environment. You get to smell everything, you get to feel everything. It's just much more being part of the great outdoors. And who doesn't want to be part of this great outdoors? It's absolutely stunning up here. Now this part of the northern shore of Lake Katrine, if I haven't already passed it, we go past a famous McGregor burial ground. In fact, I think that's it, just over on the promontory over there, which we'll pass in a moment. Sadly, I can't tell you very much about the history of the clansmen around here. All I know is that the McGregor's name became somewhat mud in this area, to the point that at one point it actually became outlawed to be called a McGregor, and if you were a McGregor you changed your name to something else. I notice there's one or two of them back now though. Not least of course our friend Ewan. But yeah, the burial ground, I don't know if you can see it, it's just stand up, it's down there on that little promontory down there. That's it. I wish I could say I had some McGregor in me to make it more poignant, but I don't. And it's so much easier riding up these hills than it was doing it on my push bike earlier today. Obvious but true, and it's one of the things that makes me still enjoy motorcycling so much, is that whenever I go up a hill like this, there's still a bit of a novelty factor about not having to pedal, and I love that. Let's look at these views. Majestic part of the world, really is. How gorgeous is that? This is so not what I get to ride around at home, it's just a great novelty for me. Now the other thing that this part of the world, the Trossachs, is famous for, in particular this part of the northern shore of Loch Katrine, is its most famous resident probably, is Rob Roy. Now Rob Roy, I don't know a great deal about him, but he went down as a bit of a legend, a bit of a Robin Hood character in the end. But initially he was a very successful farmer and landowner, employed lots of people, and was very popular with the local folk. And then he borrowed some money from the local Duke. I think it might have been the Duke of, I can't remember, Montrose I think it was, Duke of Montrose. Anyway, borrowed some money from him, and then one of his the people that worked for Rob Roy, one of his herdsmen, actually absconded with the money, I believe, and basically left an unpaid debt for Rob Roy to pick up. Wow, look at this now. Now that is stunning. We'll get back to Rob Roy in a minute. Just look at that. Unbelievable. Okay, so yeah, so Rob Roy was left with this debt that he owed to the Duke, and he was unable to pay it, and he basically defaulted. So the Duke, as you can imagine, wasn't very happy about this, and pursued him for the money, and basically couldn't catch him, and Rob Roy became a bit of an outlaw as a result. And in fact, he lived in hiding for 30 years in this area. He got caught a few times and then famously made some very daring escapes. He was a great swordsman and a bit of a dashing fellow all round, and became a local legend, particularly when I think Sir Walter Scott wrote a book, may even have been called The Legend of Rob Roy. And he became such a popular character as a result of that book that in fact the authorities pardoned him after 30 years of him being on the run. And he ended up dying in this area of natural causes, and is buried in fact in a little churchyard to the left of here with his wife. So that's Rob Roy, that's all I know about him. Oh, other than Rob Roy wasn't his name. It was probably Robert, but the Roy part is an anglicised Gaelic word that I think basically means Highland herdsman. Got to not get too carried away up here, because there could be traffic coming the other way. But what an absolutely brilliant road for a bike like this to come on. Technically, by the way, this is a private road. It's an access only job, but as I'm living for the week down at the other end, my argument is I'll be accessing where I'm living when I come back. And another stonking view. I'm hoping there's going to be somewhere I can pull over and take a picture in a minute. This looks interesting. Quite sure how this is going to work. Oh, good man. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. It's amazing actually the condition they do keep these roads in. I guess this area kind of relies on tourism, and as I mentioned earlier, walkers and cyclists in particular head for this road, myself included, and I can see why. It's absolutely stunning up here. Right, in a minute I'm pretty sure there's somewhere I can stop and get that snap for my thumbnail probably. Now, is there a little, is there a view to be had just here and a picture of the bike maybe? Let's have a look. Oh wow, certainly a view to be had. Let's have a look. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Right. Oh, I've got to be a bit careful because this ride should take me about an hour or so, I'm thinking, but it's so beautiful around here. I can so easily just keep stopping for photographs, and before you know it, it's a 2-hour ride. It's one of the more gorgeous rides I've ever done though, that's for sure. So just over there, see that hill at the back there, that big one? Just poking behind those two hills, hope you can see that. That's Ben Lomond, I believe, which is what the Scots call a Munro. It's the most, I think it's the most southerly Munro in Scotland actually. And I don't know a great deal about mountains or mountaineering, but a Munro basically is a mountain that's over 3,000 feet high. And this mountain here ahead of me is what's known as a Graham, and that's a mountain that is between 2,500 and 3,000. And then I think between 2,000 and 2,500 they're called a Corbett. I think I've got that right. I might have it around the wrong way, but Corbett, Graham and a Munro up to and above 3,000 feet. Needless to say, I haven't climbed any of them, although I have climbed the hill directly ahead of me that you might just see in a second, just poking out there. That hill at the top there, that's known as Ben Ard, and that's only about 1,500 feet, so I think doesn't even qualify for any sort of clever name. But there's an amazing view from there. You can walk up it. It's only a couple of miles or a mile and a half to walk up it. It's a pretty steep incline, but there's a little car park at the bottom. It can be done in a couple of hours, and then there's just absolutely amazing views of Loch Katrine and all of the Trossachs around there, and it's regarded as good as a Munro as far as the views are concerned off the top of it. So that's Ben Ard, in case you're keeping count. Right, so we're making good progress now, well down the northern shore of Loch Katrine. I was going to say another cattle grid, but actually these are deer grids. Obviously designed to keep wild animals one side or the other. Well, isn't this a fantastic way to spend a Tuesday evening? I can't think of much else I'd rather be doing. This is absolutely fantastic. Loving this ride. Now these things never seem as good when you look back at them on the camera, do they? I just hope the little GoPro is picking up some of the impressions that of the views that I'm getting around here. It's just a very, very special place, this. It reminds me in an odd way of Canada actually. Well, I suppose it's not odd at all, is it? Similar northerly latitude. If you told me that this was a part of Canada, I would quite happily believe you. Wowee. Look at that. Stunning. And there's only me here to enjoy it. What a beautiful place. Wow, what an amazing ride. So I'm just coming down to the southern tip of Loch Katrine now, where we get into the second section of the evening's ride, if I can find it. Still a little bit more of the loch to go, and we can see down there what's known as, I think that's called the Trossachs Pier, and you can get a boat there. That boat you see moored up is actually a steamship, believe it or not. It's called the Sir Walter Scott, and it still runs under steam, albeit oil powered, and you can get a boat trip up and down the loch on that boat, which is in fact what I did today with my push bike. I did one way on the boat and then rode back on the push bike with the family. It was a great day out actually. and gave me a good recce of that little route that I've just done. Alright, so that's it for the northern shore of Loch Katrine. Next route I want to show you is what's called the Duke's Pass. Stick around, stay tuned.